Welcome back to Henry Harrison's Entrepreneurs, Business, and Finance podcast, featuring repeat entrepreneur, speaker, and franchise owner Mike DeJong. Remember to like and subscribe so you don't miss an episode. Enjoy the show.
Welcome to the Henry Harrison podcast, Entrepreneurs, Business, and Finance. Today, I'm very pleased to have Mike DeJong on today, and he is a repeat entrepreneur, and he is a franchise owner and has a really interesting take on a lot of things that I think we're going to find very interesting and exciting. Hello, Mike.
Hey, Henry, thank you for having me on today. I'm excited to have the conversation today.
So let's start with what you're doing right now, what your current business is, and we'll have time to go back to how you got there and the trials and tribulations getting here. But right now, where's your business situation? And I'll just mention that the company that you are a franchise owner is called Nothing Bundt Cakes. And we have a lot of them in Dallas, Fort Worth. And you just shared with me, which doesn't surprise me, that the headquarters is actually in Plano. And there's one 2 miles from our house. And my sister used to make, I don't know, she wouldn't like me to say it now, call her my younger sister, but my older sister used to make them for me when I was a kid. And then I learned to make them. Hey, who doesn't like having a good cake? What a fun thing to be involved with.
Yeah, I think the only thing people like more than cake would maybe be ice cream, maybe. But you'd have people that argue with that. It's a really great brand. It started by two great women 30 something years ago in Las Vegas, and just they live their values. They really do.
Neat to hear.
Just love that
So right
brand.
now, when you own several franchises, I understand that because we talked a little bit earlier that you've sold some, building more. So explain kind of where you are right now with the business.
I recently sold the last of my Wisconsin franchises. I brought the first ones into Wisconsin, built four there. Someone came along and said, "Hey, you want to sell?" I said no. And then they made an offer that I'm like, "Oh, I can't refuse that. Yeah, sure, I'd love to sell. Let's do that." And before that happened, I actually bought an underperforming franchise out in the Seattle area. And so I was pivoting out there, and that's where I'm at now. I have that franchise, and I'm looking for real estate to build two more out in that area right now, and then we'll see where the expansion, the growth takes me from there. I have a lot of fun. I have a lot of fun starting them. That's my favorite thing to do. I love figuring out where to put them. I love figuring out the right locations, the demographics. I love the building process. A lot of people hate that stuff. I absolutely just jones out over all that. It's my favorite thing, and getting them open, getting them profitable. And then I kind of slow down and become less excited. But we could talk about we could talk about all that. That's
I
where
can
I'm at right now.
understand that. I can understand that. Yeah. And so buying an underperforming one, obviously you thought you could and have been able to change the limitations that were in place before you bought it.
Yeah, a lot of it, and I did think that, and I was right. No, Nothing Bundt Cakes at that point had ever closed their doors. And I think it might be one. I'm not even sure on that, Henry. It's just a franchise that just keeps on going. It's beloved and kind of hard to screw one up. So this one wasn't dying by any means, but it wasn't doing as well as it could. And the major problem I found when I went to look at it was they lost their customer-centric focus. A lot of the things they were doing were to make it easier for them. If someone placed an order, we could have that for you in 24 hours, and it should be in under 20 minutes. If someone DoorDash and Uber Eats and those things, we recently integrated with those platforms, and they're like, we could only open that for a couple hours every day because we really want to, in their minds, give people the best service. This is when we have the most people in the building that could fulfill those orders. And those should be, again, 10 to 20 minutes. Just every cycle I looked at was how it could be easier for them, not how it could be better for the customers. Made some tweaks to make it more customer centric. I know that it sounds simple. It took a year. It took a year to make that happen, Henry, but the success started to come, and we grew from minus, I think it was 12% growth to positive 30 something that first year that I took it over. It was right around Mother's Day.
I actually think that's one of the keys to business is if you can boil the goal down to something comprehensible and simple and understandable, then you can apply it in multiple ways. So I'm sure when you first get there, you don't know, you just know they're losing money. So then you got to make sense of it. What's going wrong? Why are they losing money? And then gradually you peel away the onion, and then you can summarize it after you've gone through all the discovery. And then you got to figure out how to turn it around and put all the mechanisms in place to actually provide all that service when it
Right.
wasn't set up to do that way. So yeah, no, that yeah, but the fact that you can say it in a simply thing to me is really important.
Well, thanks. I just didn't want to oversimplify it where, oh, it's simple. You just go make it customer centric and everything's wonderful. No, it's you have to change the culture and the location. You have to go let the community and your customers know that we've changed the way we do business, that it's not 24 hours or 48 hours to get something, it's 20 minutes. There was just a whole process around it. It's weird. I find some of it fun, especially in hindsight. It's like, oh, that was fun. But in the moment, it's certainly not. It's certainly not fun.
Yeah.
It's why? Why do you not see? Why do you not see what I see?
So how is it when you buy a franchise with your company, Nothing But Cakes? How does that start out? How do they help you? And I guess give us some roadmap. You mentioned they live the values and they're growing so fast. And what are the values like? What can we learn from the success? And what can we learn from you're having success now? And I'd say quite a bit of success, multiple franchises, sold profit, starting more. I'm sure you have probably, I'm sure you go to seminars and there's a couple days of things to talk about. We have 30 minutes, but give us a few minutes on what Nothing Bun Cakes does well. They've obviously got a great product, tastes good, choices, and people like cakes, but there's a lot more to that.
Sure. There's you can't talk about the secret sauce because that's the secret sauce, but I could talk about it in generalities. And
Yeah, yeah.
the big thing that Nothing Bun Cakes does really is they are customer centric, customer focused. It's how can we best serve our clients? How can we be part of their day-to-day celebrations? And I got to tell you, I went into it with a jaded business person. I'm like, yeah, customer centric, yeah, celebrations. Okay, the numbers look good. Let's go make some money. And within a month, I actually started during training, but within a month of opening the first store myself, I started having these personal examples like a woman who came in and she wanted a few dozen Buntinis. And I'm just talking, oh, what do you need these for? I'm taking them to the hospital where I did my double lung transplant. It's my third anniversary. And I always take the nurses on the floor that took care of me some treats every year. I'm like, oh, wow, that's amazing. Or one that still chokes me up in the first year is a woman was coming in every day and buying one red velvet gauntlet every day around the same time. And one day I just asked him, like, you come and get the same one like every day. What's your favorite cake? Just kind of joking. If you want to try something else or, get two so you could skip tomorrow because they last a couple days. You're fine. She's no, they're not for me. This is my dad's favorite cake and he's in hospice just down the road. And this is the only thing he'll eat. I'm like, oh, I get choked up just thinking about it.
Yeah,
And
making me choked up. Sure.
yeah, and then some of these moments just start to compound and you don't get jaded with them. We're there on people's birthdays and birth of your children's and children's children and their wedding day and in every other religious holiday and secular holiday you could think of in between. Cake is a big part of so many culture celebrations and we're right there with them. And they tell you the stories. That's the great thing. A lot of people come in and again, at first, jaded business person, yeah, I'm like, hey, I buy the cake, leave. I don't like I shouldn't say this out loud, but it's true. And within a few weeks again, I started asking people the stories. I'm like, oh, what are you really doing with this? Not like, oh, I'm going to this party. It's tell me about the person or why this cake or why this flavor. And they start opening up about the reasons and the history and the man, I get a little weepy. I haven't thought or talked about this in a long time, Henry. It's good to reconnect like this. Thank you. But it's just, this is what I'm talking about when they live their values because they make it easy for us as franchisees to set up for success and become part of people's lives. They put service steps in place where they say, we demand that you do these things for every client and every customer, not just turn them into a number at a kiosk. Like you go to a certain places with golden arches and you go up to a kiosk and you press some buttons and a number spits out in a receipt and then they call 263 and then they hand you your bag of stuff. That's not what we do at Nothing But Cakes. We really truly do connect with the individuals. And I think that's what makes that franchise really special. And then on top of that, the cake is freaking amazing and the frosting is next level. And yeah, it's just, they really do live their values, Henry.
But yeah, I think everybody probably, most people have stories around cake as you say that. And my first thing was, oh yeah, the great time. I was so excited. My sister's gonna make a bundt cake. It's a little kid and in the kitchen and be ready in whatever took longer than it takes for you, but I think back then, and go out and play and get friends or whatever. So yeah, that really is a neat. I guess I intuitively knew that, but I don't know that I would have laid it out the way you did because I don't have a business like you do. So when you go in and pick locations, then is that something that you do on your own? You get some support from them for information, but ultimately you're the guy that says, "Hey, I want to build here." You're putting your money on that, right?
Yeah, and that's evolved over the decade I've been with the brand. When I started, you pick a few locations. They had a real estate company, corporate, like national brand that helped with commercial real estate that would guide you. And then the president at the time would actually have to come out and visit the location to give a blessing to say, yep, this is a good spot to put one. But over the last decade, obviously, with back then we're doing maybe 15, 20 locations a year. Now they're doing over 100. That's not the best use of people's time. The
Yeah, just to
brands
say
have,
that there's hundreds of these stores across the country, getting close to 1,000 from what I understand. So hundreds and
that's
hundreds.
that's correct. So as they've grown, they've evolved. When I got into the brand, one of the original partners had recently exited. So it was owned by one of the partners in a private equity group. And then a few years ago, she exited. So it was owned by a private equity group. And then a few months ago, we were bought by a different private equity group. But they're still keeping, even through those transitions, they're still keeping that heart-centric, customer-centric focus, which was make us so successful, which is amazing. But the evolution is they bring in people who have grown brands from a few hundred units to thousands, potentially thousands of units. I don't know what the upper limit is. I'm not in that part of it, right? You'd have to call someone to corporate, ask them that. They've brought better analytics on areas we should go into and et cetera. But even when I got into it, we knew there were certain co-retailers that were generally equaled better sales with our demographic. Like places like a Target was usually a good place to be, or a Trader Joe's or a Whole Foods. We had one of those within a mile or in the same parking lot, even better. Those are the sort of people that were coming to our stores, not exclusively, never exclusively, but better. And then over the years, the last one I physically opened, given like the 10 top consumer types that came in, and here's how they interact with us, here's how they interact with the community, here's how you could find them, here's some overlaps on where we think they shop. And it really helped to zoom in even better. And then you get the basic stuff, like what's the car counts there? Is there a stoplight to get out of the parking lot? How much room do you have? These are the things I look at. How much room does a person have to open their car door and get out with the car seat? Because a lot of our demographic are young women with small children. Can they get in and out of the parking lot easily? Just because they might come once, but they're not going to come again if they can't make a left turn. And this is not exclusively for women, that's everybody. But it's just
Do you track? So where are you living right now? You're living in Wisconsin?
I'm homeless.
Okay, yeah, because
Uh,
I was going to say you're traveling to Seattle and you're selling here, and that's a lot of space between.
yeah, I was in Wisconsin and Seattle, and then I was in Wisconsin and Virginia and Seattle, and then I was in Virginia and Seattle, and now I'm literally on the roll. I sold my house. I don't have a fixed address. I do. You have to have a fixed address, but
Yeah.
I don't actually live there. Borrowed a friend's address, and I live in Airbnbs. I'm in Virginia as I'm talking to you right now, just outside of Washington, D.C., a place called Reston, Virginia. Just spent 2 months down in the Gulf Coast in Galveston, Texas. Spent 2 months before that in southern Florida, in the Naples area, trying to figure out where I want to be. It's great. My kids are growing. One's a commercial pilot, and the other one's going to grad school. And I don't have this tie. I've learned to run business remotely. So I'm like, where do I want to live? Let's go for a year or two on the road and try some different spots out for a month or two and see how they fit. And then I can make a decision.
So you obviously you've got to staff up these locations. Do you have basically hire a general manager that does that? How does that work?
So each location, I have their own general manager. That's exactly right. And then as I grow from one to more, I'll put in a district or area manager, whatever you want to call them. I'm not super huge in title. I'm like, what title do you want? Great, that's who you are. So that they could manage the growth. And I'll bring them in before I grow, which is it's a profitability hit. You're paid another salary that maybe you're not ready to do. But I've learned if I want to live how I want to live. And for me, that's freedom to me is not going to the same place day after day. It's being able to travel like I'm doing. So to be able to live like I want to, I have to have this person in place to manage the day to day and the week to week, the month to month. We check in twice a month, usually for a few hours each time. And there's some KPIs I look at in between. That's how I've learned to do it over trial and error. the first
So,
few
so how
people I
did you
put in those
learn? Yeah. So how
places.
did you, let's talk about the trial and error. So how did you didn't just wake up one day. Obviously you woke up, you were born a while ago because you got grown kids and
Yeah.
you have a lot of experience in life and you didn't, in elementary school, know how to run a franchise business and hire general managers and pick locations and work remotely and establish customer service practices and cultures. And so how did you get where you are now?
How far back do you want to start?
I guess let's start. First of all, it's interesting that you had an engineering degree,
Yeah.
and it seems like you went to HR block, not necessarily engineering, but it was
Operations. Yeah.
operations, yeah. But when you were a kid, did you think you were going to be an entrepreneur? Or did you have entrepreneurs in the family, or no? Yeah,
No, no, not at all. I grew up in a small steel town. All we knew was the steel mill was the major provider, and there was a small paper mill, and that was a secondary provider, and that was what everyone knew. And I wasn't super interested in that. I thought I'd either be a pilot or an astronaut. And the astronaut thing didn't work out, but I did do the pilot thing for a few years before I went and got an engineering degree. And that was a lot of fun, but it was like my introduction to entrepreneurship. I was flying the business executives around, and I have these people in the back of the airplane that are pretty important people, at least in their own worlds, right? And I started thinking, like, how could I be one of them? I don't want to drive them around. I want to be one of them. That's kind of what planted the seed. I didn't really act on it for another, I don't know, 15 years, 20 years, something like that. I went and did the engineering route and worked in steel mills all over the world for a long time, which is great. A lot of fun doing that. And then operations with H&R Block in between there, and then into franchise, and maybe a few, I call them jobbies, hobbies that I kind of turned into jobs or side hustles, some people call them. During all those periods, I always had something else going on out of my garage, but that's a broad strokes evolution from then to now.
sure. And then I guess somewhere along the line, you landed on bundt cakes business. And I know you've written a book and you're passionate about talking about, well, I'll let you tell what you're passionate about talking about because it's
Yeah,
not all, I know this, it's not always easy.
no, there's been so many challenges along the way, Henry. And that's why I wrote the book. Enough people that I'd worked with and helped out over the years, especially recently, you got to write this stuff down. This is, as they put it, this is gold. You got to write this stuff down. You can help more people. I'm like, after some resistance, I did. But the major overarching thing is we are our own roadblock. We get stuck in something I call the operator trap. And that's a lot of small business owners, myself included, work really hard to figure out all the things we don't know to make a successful business. And we grow to a certain point. And that's different in every business. Some people it's 100,000 a year, a million a year, whatever it is, you're going to hit your limit. And then there isn't any more hours to work. There's only 168 hours in the week. You got to sleep a few of them. Even if you're one of those people only 4 hours of sleep a night, I'm not. I need 8. You should probably work out a bit, maybe eat occasionally, shower. There's just of those 168 hours, what are you going to work? Like 100 of them, 110, 20? There's only so many. And the thing that made you successful is now the thing that's holding you back. And I like to help people recognize that they're in the trap and then give them a path out of that trap to true entrepreneurship, from what I call being an operator to a true owner of their business.
Yeah, yeah. Tell us, did you have some traps that you fell into that you managed to get out of? I'm thinking you did.
So many, so many. I think the most traumatic one that happened the most recently, it was still a few years ago, but it was bad, is I thought I'd work my way out of this trap. I thought I'd put the people and processes and procedures in place and that I delegated things properly and that I was looking at the right KPIs, and I was off having the best year of my life. I was traveling all over the world. I went to Africa twice that year. I went on 4 different safaris. I can't even remember all the places I went. And my major KPI was their money in the bank. That was it. I'm like, oh, look, there's money in the bank. We're doing great. All my people are doing great. I check in, how's everything? Everything's great, great. And January rolls around, and in the cake business, we make a lot of money in Thanksgiving to Christmas. Probably about a third, quarter to a third of the annual revenue, and that holds us over until Easter, Mother's Day, because for some reason people don't want to eat cake in January, like they're on diets or something. I don't know. It's weird. And there was no money in the bank. Matter of fact, I was trying to figure out how I was going to make payroll. I'm like, wait a second, I should have a buffer here to hold me over, and I'm not even going to make payroll. Holy And I thought, okay, someone must have been stealing from me. Went through everything. No, people weren't stealing from me. I'm like, oh my God, like, what am I going to do? Well, okay, media concern. How am I going to make payroll? I got to figure that out. I got to find some cash. Got to find some cash to make payroll. That was step number one. You go to the bank, they're like, no, we're not going to give you a loan because you have nothing to take a loan against. Look at your numbers. They're terrible. I'm like, oh God, okay. So I did the most horrible thing is I went to those high interest rate lenders and credit cards and got the cash to make that payroll. And then I really dug in because that just bought me some time. I was essentially bankrupt. And I'm like, I got weeks, maybe a month to fix this, or I'm going to be completely out of cash. And this is just, and I owe it to my people. Like as a small business owner, you're responsible for how many lives? Like you're putting food on their tables. And I just couldn't believe that I wasn't set up to do that for them. And I started looking, and I'm like, okay, here it is. Our labor is doubled or in some places tripled, but our sales are down. This is crazy. What's going on? Why are we paying so much more? And I dig in some more and I start looking at asking a lot of questions, things I stopped doing for a year because I thought I'd figured it out, Henry. And it's the procedure says if we're not producing this many cakes in this amount of time when we have these sales, we got to hire a new person. So I hired a new person. What the procedure didn't say is, are the people you have doing it at the minimum speed? So we had a lot of people that were working at 10%, 20% effort, and they just kept bringing on more people and more people. So would the right manager have figured that out and not need that in a procedure? Yes, Henry, the right person would figure that out. But I didn't have the right people in place at that point. I really didn't. I had great, very nice people that were great with customers and beloved by the staff, but they didn't have a business mind at all. So I had to step back into the day-to-day operations. I had to look and decide what my right KPIs are. We had to right size the labor pool, which really hurt because when people's hours get cut, they tend to want to go work somewhere else. And we lost a lot of good people, which bothers me to this day. I understand if you're used to getting 40 hours and now I could offer you 10, you're going to probably go work somewhere else. But on the flip side, if I kept everyone at 40 hours, I would have had to quadruple sales, and that wasn't going to happen in 2 to 4 weeks. So decisions had to be made. We went back to first principles, and then I started looking at the people I had in charge and what KPIs, key performance indicators, I wanted them to meet every day. Sales per labor hour was a big one early on. And I didn't have to fire anyone because people just started self-selecting. They're like, this isn't the job for me. Because I had B and C players. B and C players, as soon as you start measuring them, they don't want to play anymore. But A players love to get measured. So then I started bringing in or attracting better talent, made some mistakes, hired several wrong people as I was making that transition, but finally figured out the formula to get the right people in place, the right incentive plan, and got everything back on track. And a year later, had a better set of KPIs to look at. Not that I still don't get caught out once in a while, but never to the extent that I did at that point. And thinking back at that, like there was a lot of sleepless nights. It was really, it was
Jay,
scary.
and you're talking better what to look at?
Key performance indicators.
Yeah, so just wanted to make sure everybody understood the acronym.
Yeah, KPIs, key performance. What are the things that are actually going to move the needle? Because at one time during that period, I started measuring everything. Like I should look at every metric. I had spreadsheet after spreadsheet. And if you're measuring everything, you're really measuring nothing. I'm like, what's the ones that are really going to move the needle? And it was, in our case, is how much cake are we sampling? If I get someone to try the cake, they're probably going to go buy a cake. So that was an important metric for me. And then sales per labor hour. How efficient are we at our sales for every hour of labor that we have in place? Those two started being really big. And then are we still maintaining quality? And I didn't care about the overall, people call it different things. Let's call it the net promoter score. Oh, look, you're 95%. Yay. People will say, yeah, you're great. But the details are in the rest of the report. And I really loved looking at likelihood to recommend and likelihood to return. If those numbers were in the high 80s, I'm like, okay, we're doing something right. And then even digging deeper, and I still do this to this day, once a week, I go in and I pull out all of the lower reviews and I'm looking for patterns. It's not one time Henry was mean to me at the front counter. It's okay, maybe Henry had a bad day, maybe they had a bad day, maybe there was a misunderstanding. Not that I wouldn't say Henry, you'd be nice to people at the front counter, but I'd start looking for the patterns in that negative data because those are opportunities for us to help people. And that was another mindset shift because I used to go, oh my God, this is so terrible. People don't love us. And what are we going to do? And no, the people that have actually taken the time to tell us what we're not doing right is probably like 1 out of 10, 1 out of 100. People just don't take the time. They've given us a gift. Let's use this information and see where we can improve. And then we start making these evolutions, constant and never ending improvements. We just keep evolving, changes. Let's keep making it better and better, more customer focused, more customer centric, but never on just one data point. You have to look at many, but that's the key, the big ones I look. There's other ones, that's the big ones. Some I look at every day, some weekly, some monthly. I recently learned of a new one I should look at quarterly. I got caught out, but you got to keep evolving. But the flip side is when you get the right people there, is you could build the confidence, not just set it up and forget it, but build the confidence and actually not have to be there every minute of every day, not be the roadblock to growth. Because if you could just rinse and repeat, bringing in the right sort of people, you could just keep opening new locations versus if it's you, there's only so many you can do.
And you mentioned you had numerous careers because the whole engineering and steel plants around the country is one thing, H&R Block, but you've been involved with, or I guess, a franchise owner, almost 10 years now of Nothing But Bundt Cakes. You also had a short stint owning a different franchise, Osteo Strong, which I
Yes, sir.
understand was a success as well.
Yeah, that was another great franchise. I recommend everyone should go take a look at them. It's a 10-minute, once a week, no sweat. You could show up in high heels if you're a woman. You show up in high heels if you're a guy. I don't discriminate. Workout that helps stop or reverse osteoporosis and osteopenia. For every person when they're hit age 30, men and women lose about 1% of their bone density a year. So that's why we see people stooped over later in life. And women, unfortunately, start losing more when they go through menopause. And that's why the guys don't get stooped over for 20 or 30 years, be past when you start seeing the young ladies happening. So it's a great franchise. It really serves a great need in people's health. But I saw this at a Tony Robbins event. I'm like, this is interesting. Let me look at this. And I tried it out. I said, okay, this makes sense to me. I looked at the numbers, they start making sense. And I was thinking of opening one. And then similar to buying the distressed property out in the Seattle area for Nothing Bundt Cakes, there was a distressed property in Colorado Springs. And I was able to buy it for like 9 cents on the dollar, what it would cost me to open it. And they were happy to get that because they were ready to leave. And I went in, and as a good friend of mine says that I sprinkled the Magic Michael dust on the place. And then it was like 6 or 7 months later, I was able to sell it for 3 times what I put into it. I would have kept it, except that I realized a couple things. One is it was a distraction from me running my Nothing Bundt Cakes to their fullest level. Like I could see that those sales started to flatline a little bit because I took my eye off the ball there. I didn't quite have the right team in place to be completely hands off yet. And secondly, Nothing Bundt Cakes decided some changes on how they would allow people to grow. So there was more opportunity for me to open more. And I'm like, I just want to stick with that. So it just made sense to sell that location. But it was, again, customer centric customer service. I went in and I said, like, you just walked in, you felt, ugh. Okay, why do I feel, ugh? Let me look around. Oh, 3/4 of the light bulbs are burned out, and the ones that are here are not the same color. Okay, let's change all the light bulbs. Oh, the paint is literally scraped up and nasty and has so many thumbtacks in it. Let's paint the place. Now the place is dirty. All right, let's clean it. All right, we never greet anybody when they come in the front door. Let's have people say hello when someone walks in, and then put some marketing in place, not just online. And I call online it's great, but for me, it's an add-on in any business I'm in. Business existed before there was social media and Google and Facebook and Instagram and TikTok and all those other platforms. Let's go talk to some people. Let's go where our customers are, and figured out where the people that go to need OsteoStrong were, and started talking to them and bringing them in, and we increased sales dramatically and made people happy, and then people wanted to stay. They weren't just turning over all the time. And as I said, then there was reasons to sell it, so I sold it. But this stuff isn't complicated. Just spend a minute to look around.
Sam
It's a bunch
Walton,
of little things. It's a bunch of little things. It's a bunch of
I
little
think most people know Sam Walton founded Walmart, but he used to say that if he could started the greeters, and that people were really warmly received when they went in Walmart, this massive company sales would increase something like a drastic number like 10%. I don't remember the exact number he quoted, but yeah, the customer service business, important.
It starts, for me, it starts in the parking lot. Is our sign lit? Do any of our neighbors have cracked windows? Is there trash? Is the landlord taking care of cutting the lawn and trimming the trees? It just has to feel right from the very beginning. And most people, it's an intangible thing. They're not thinking, oh, all the lights are lit and there's the same color. They just walk in and go, ugh. Or as you're pulling up to a place, you just think, oh, this is nice or this is janky. You don't think why. You really can't put your finger on why. And it's the little pieces of trash. Are the lines painted in the parking lot? Is there a broken window next door? All these things add up in people's minds subconsciously. Just give them the right or the wrong opinion about a place.
As we wrap up, what is on the schedule for the rest of your time on this earth? You've written one book. I'll just read the title: Empowering Franchisees to Regain Freedom and Control by Mike DeJong. And you're opening new franchises. You're having fun with that. You're also having fun with the freedom to live where you want. I'm sure you have to go visit sometimes, but you can mainly work remote.
I go at least quarterly.
Yeah, there you go. So what's up for the next 5-10 years? Do you know?
The plan is, we'll see how well I stick to it. I've really found a lot of joy in speaking. So if anyone wants a conversation on how to get out of the operator trap and how to get out of their own way, I love doing that. I've loved speaking for a long time. I've just formalized it. And I do some workshops now on how to work through this. So it's not like you go to a place and they lecture to you for 8 hours. It's we're gonna dig in and you're gonna leave knowing how to move to the next step. Love doing that stuff. And that was the working title to the book. We'll release it on Amazon. I think it's tomorrow, actually, Henry. So you're the first to hear this. And the title is going to be Grow Smart. And then the subtitle will be what you wrote. We just decided to, after some testing in the marketplace, to change that a little bit. But you get the bug. It's weird. It took forever to write the first one. And now I've written two more books, which will be out in the next 6 months or so. They're with my editor right now. Because my mission in life is to really help people. I struggled. I went through all these adversity. You're still going to have adversity as a business owner. There's no way to avoid it. It's just part of being a human. But if I could lighten the load and give you some areas to not make the same mistakes or make smaller mistakes, that's just my passion and my mission in life right now.
Yeah, that's fantastic. And it sounds exciting. If people want you to speak or do a workshop or talk to you, what's the best way for them to get hold of you? Obviously, you're on LinkedIn. That's a common way.
Yeah, they could drop me an email at mike@mikedejong.com or visit my website at mikedejong.com. Okay, try to make it pretty simple.
mikedejong.com, email, LinkedIn, whatever works for them. And I'm sure you'll be glad to hear from them.
Absolutely. I just want to end suffering. My brother has a different way of ending suffering. This is mine. So we're going to end suffering in the world.
There you go. I love it. Hey, thank you so much for coming on. Really enjoyed this, and I look forward to staying in touch.
Henry, really appreciate the opportunity. Just thank you so much for having me. Thank you for watching Henry Harrison's Entrepreneurs Business and Finance podcast. Remember to like and subscribe so you don't miss an episode. You can also search Henry Harrison Podcast on your favorite podcast platforms.